just now. So don't see it being quiet and asking yourself what is going on. We are going on behind the scenes, and we will be in front of the scenes as soon as we are able to get hold of Dr. Janet Munakamwe.
Dr. Janet, I've just spoken to you. Please, let's see whether we can hear you. Can you hear us? Apologies, give me 1 minute.
Can you hear me? Hello?
You have an echo. Can we see whether your camera will come on? Yes, we can hear you. Do you want to?
My phone is disabled. My mic is disabled. I don't know why. Who disabled it? Thanks.
No, we can hear you. Yes, we can. Please put on your camera.
Sure.
There we go. Apologies, everybody. Shapa, good to see you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, good morning, good day, good night, colleagues. It's 12 midday, 10 past almost at South African time. And you're welcome. My role is very simple. I'm standing in for one of our APEC leaders, Nongneto Matube, and our role is just to do the introductory remarks. I'm not going to get into the content other than that the experts who have put together the documents that we have will be speaking to us. It is the working group on energy just transitions and environment. They know the issues better than I do. We have relied on their leadership on this process. They are led by Ms. Wanjiku Wairia and a number of other esteemed colleagues who have worked hard taking into account your various inputs. So I'm not going to steal their thunder. They will also introduce themselves and take us through the journey that they have created for us. Ours is just to welcome you, welcome your inputs, allow them to run this process the best way they have decided how to follow their lead, engage. Hopefully the issues that you raise would be additional issues that they may not have included in the draft 3 of the policy, which will give them a moment to incorporate additional comments that you may have as they finalize the document. And so enjoy yourself, follow their lead. We are out, we now bring them in. And just to the colleagues, I think Ayanda had said we will come back at the end. We will not come back at the end. We are now giving you this aeroplane to fly it as well as to land it. Over to you, Working Group 14. Take charge, be in the lead. We will just follow. With that, thank you and welcome.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you very much, Shapa. It's great to see you. It's been a minute. And thank you very much for stepping in and to give the opening remarks. So indeed, greetings to all of us from the Cradle of Humanity, where I'm based. On behalf of the G20C20 Energy Transition, Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group, it is really my deep honor to welcome you to this socialization webinar. We are privileged in many ways to straddle two G20 working groups, that is Energy Just Transition and Environment and Climate Sustainability. Today, we gather not only to review the document, but also to affirm our shared commitment to ensure that the energy transitions are just and the climate pathways that are being shaped at the G20 are rooted not only in justice, but also they are inclusive and sustainable. This is a space for co-creation. We are here to be of service to you. We are privileged to be leading this service of putting this together, but really it is your voices that get penned into the policy. And this is ideally where all our voices come together across communities to inform what we will advance to the highest level of global governance. Allow me first to give gratitude to my co-joint facilitators. I'll ask them to introduce themselves. Dr. Srinivas is not able to join us, but I'll ask Rini as she introduces herself to really speak to the same. Dr. Janet is here, so she will speak on her behalf, and the rest of our team who are also dialed in. Personally, I want to give gratitude to Oxfam Kenya, Oxfam South Africa, Oxfam in Africa, and Oxfam International, the Civil 20, and the G20 platforms who have paved the way for this collective work. So as we transition, I'd like to invite Dr. Janet Mnakamwe. We call her the professor. She's the smartest one. If I was in her class, I think I would have been penalized for playing in class. I'll ask her to start, and then we'll go over to the Vesuda team, to Rini and Mechala. Over to you, Dr. Janet.
Thank you so much, Honorable Madam Lead Facilitator, and thank you so much for your leadership. And of course, the team that has made this work happen, not forgetting the communities themselves, and everybody who joined us today. So my name is Janet Munakamwe. I'm a Pan-African feminist scholar, also involved in issues related to migration, and of course, with a special focus on migration and climate justice change. This has been my recent work area of study, but I'm also based at Wits Mining Institute, University of Witwatersrand, where I'm also involved in research on impact of obviously climate change on communities and of course workers, but also most importantly focusing on a broader national research on skills development, of which green skilling actually constitutes some of this particular work and policy proposals. I'm glad that some of the communities that have been involved in this amazing work on skills revolution are also part and parcel of this particular this briefing socialization session. Welcome to you, everyone. Thank you. I think also Oxfam South Africa, I'm sure you noted, I'm actually, my credentials are partner to Oxfam South Africa. What this simply means is that Oxfam South Africa has been supporting the work I've been actually involved in within the C20. A partner to Oxfam is not really Dr. Janet, but it's the African Diaspora Workers Network, which is a community-based organization that supports vulnerable communities, migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers in South Africa from a Pan-African perspective. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. We shall move on to the Visita team led by Rini. And I see on the call we are privileged to have Greer, who leads the guidance on policy, and as well as Rebon. And I'll ask them to introduce them briefly before going to their presentation. Over to you, Rini.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Sherpa, for joining us, and Madam Chair, Dr. Wanjiku, and Dr. Janet for leading this conversation. I am Rini, and from Vasudha Foundation, India. I'm joined here by my colleague Mekhla. Both Mekhla and I are supporting the other co-facilitator of this group, who is Mr. Srinivas Krishnaswamy. He's the CEO of Vasudha Foundation. Currently, he's on a panel in southern India, talking about how energy transition and land use and all go hand in hand. And we are here to talk about the energy transition work stream within this working group. At Vasudha, I lead the climate policy vertical, and I have 12 plus years of experience working in this field. Over to you, Mekhla. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Janet. Thank you so much for having us here today. I'm very happy to be a part of this conversation. My name is Mekhila Shastri. I am also a part of the climate policy vertical at Vasudha Foundation, and I work mostly on the issues of subnational climate action, including just energy transition and its importance in the climate action space. Thank you so much again for having us. Looking forward to the discussion.
Indeed, thank you very much. I think what Mekhala has not said, I think she pulls longer hours than all of us to get us organized when everybody else is jetting across the skies. Thank you very much. Ravon, I see your camera is on. Please introduce yourself, and really great gratitude from day one for holding our hands and keeping us organized. Over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. Thank you, Madam Chair and Dr. Jeanette. I'm honored to be here. My name is Rebaune Notwani. I'm the cluster coordinator for various working groups, and I am pleased to be here. I'm so happy and I'm looking forward to the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much for helping us get our work together. Gray, if you're able to hear us, it would be great for you to introduce yourself. Gray is the powerhouse behind giving us feedback and making sure that we are keeping our matters close and tight. Gray, would you like to speak? Are you able to unmute and speak?
Thank you so much for your kind words, Wanjiku. Good day to everyone. I'm very excited to be to be able to participate within this webinar. Working Group 14 is a powerhouse, and I'm very excited over the next while. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Greer. What Greer didn't say that we have really stressed her because we're struggling in two groups, but she's been gracious. So now, even as we now go to the core of our business, I'd like to invite us to look at this more as a meeting of minds, a way to steady the bridge of our diverse voices as we spark the collective energy of the work that we're carrying forward. I will go off camera to allow Mihala to put up the presentation, and we can get started. Mihala, over to you. I believe, Rini, we are starting off with you. This is a collective effort, so we will present in different parts as we are constituted as a team.
I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can. Please proceed. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, again. Mikla, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We did a short round of introduction, and now we'll deep dive into what this working group has been focusing and has been, trying to push and put forward for G20 to consider. So the deck is divided into some 7-8 slides, if I'm not mistaken, and each one of us will do 1 or 2 slides each. The first thing that we want to start with is what was our thought rationale when we started putting our ideas together and developing the paper. So of course we have built on the South Africa's G20 theme, which is solidarity, equality and sustainability. And because this working group is on energy just transition and environment and climate sustainability, our focus areas have been around that. So there was a lot of brainstorm, a lot of iterations, but at the end of it, and in order to keep it comprehensive and inclusive, the 8 key pillars that we wanted to focus on includes, of course, the critical mineral diplomacy, because what we wanted was that critical mineral and its exploration should be fair, equitable, and transparent in nature, so that the benefit sharing is, is equitable across the communities and no single nation is exploited just because there is increasing demand of critical minerals. We wanted to bring in the framework that ensures that the extraction of critical minerals and metals, which is super essential for all the upcoming technologies related to EVs and RE, to scale up RE, it does not come at an expense of local communities, vulnerable population, and ecosystem. That was the entire thought. The second pillar is about energy diplomacy and reducing energy poverty, ensuring that there is energy sovereignty, there is innovation, technology, and this entire pillar is built on the SDG 7, which talks about that everybody should have access to clean and affordable energy. It also builds on the previous G20 G20, commitments, especially the one that happened in India in 2023, which categorically said that the G20 should come together to triple the renewable energy and double the rate of energy efficiency by 2030. So this pillar talks about that how G20 as a group can, explore all kinds of available technologies in the RE sector, the different typologies, the different topologies, when we talk about this, the solar, the agri photovoltaic and all, so that it suits various country requirements and country situation. Then we have the third pillar, which talks about net sustainability and inclusive climate finance. So here what we wanted to highlight in our paper and what we have done is what we learned from South Africa's just energy transition model is that it was unfair and it ended up creating more debt. So we do not want debt, new debt creating mechanisms. So the climate finance that comes to global South should be equitable in nature, should be concessional in nature. It should be adequate, and it should be timely. And this is what we wanted to focus in this pillar, and we have talked about it. Then we talk about the social constraints, bringing from what the Bali G20 declaration had talked about, that no one should be left behind. And the main theme of this working group, which is just energy transition. So here, these recommendations of this pillar talk about that we want to ensure that all the vulnerable communities, women, people of LGBTQI, people of disabilities are adequately represented, and are, when the benefit sharings happen, they have the equal, take in that. So, and during the just energy transition, often the planning is very is in very siloed approaches. However, we wanted to bring forth the concept of that when you are planning for EV transition, you also have to look towards the entire value chain. Even the roadside mechanic, and his livelihood or his or her livelihood will go if all the cars shift to EV, because these roadside mechanics are trained to only work around ICE vehicles. So how do we ensure that everybody that is likely to be impacted by energy transition is given equal opportunity, is reskilled, and is included in the planning? So that's the fourth pillar. I'll come to the fifth pillar. And fifth and sixth, while I can talk briefly, I would request Dr. Janet, when she comes to her slide, to talk about these. So I'll just quickly talk about that. The work stream on environment and climate sustainability, which is led by Dr. Janet, focused on environment diplomacy, gender responsive climate action, and energy transition. They have come up with recommendation on how to also integrate the pollution part of it. So when we are talking about energy transition and climate, we are not just talking about greenhouse gases. We are not just talking about controlling the temperature, but also the local climate, local environmental issues, which is air pollution, water pollution, and chemical waste. We are talking about marine ecosystems. So all of that has been addressed. Similarly, biodiversity and land rights. So when we talk about energy transition, there is this conflict of land which always comes up, especially when there are these huge RE parks coming, and the question of food security and all comes in. So those aspects have been talked about when we have discussed and we have written in detail about our pillar 7. And the last is about intellectual property and ensuring that indigenous knowledge systems is intertwined and is integrated in our work, or when we are giving these recommendations to G20. Also, the smaller groups, while the large industries and all get all kinds of support, be it the technology transfer or the financial capex and all, the MSME is often left behind. So how do we ensure that MSME is also taken into consideration and their needs and requirements are met when you come up with some policy for industrial decarbonization? So those were the focus areas. Moving to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you, Mekhla. I'll just do one more slide here. And while I talked about the focus areas, the challenges, of course, are linked to it. And when we understand the challenges is when we actually come up with our, what is our ask? How do we want to modify the current status quo, and how do we want to push this entire agenda of just energy transition? So first and the foremost, of course, which we all know and all of us are here, is the deteriorating climate space. In this year itself, we have breached the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise above the pre-industrial era, and we are likely to cross that target. We are not likely to meet the target, the Paris Agreement target, because of the continued emissions and energy demand and the growth in emissions. So how do we address that while also taking into account that there are development priorities, there are biodiversity and land related issues? So that's one challenge. Again, energy sovereignty and poverty. There are so many countries, and our paper has all those. I think, okay, here in the section also we have that around 650 plus million people globally still lack access to clean and affordable sustainable energy. Out of the 650 plus million people, 600 of that is concentrated in the continent of Africa. So how do we ensure that these people get the basic have access to the basic necessities, but while we are trying to do that, we do not lead to more emissions? The other is what I talked about, the indigenous knowledge systems. How do we ensure that we integrate this excellent knowledge that are there with our indigenous people and with our tribes, with different communities across the globe, and they know what works best for them and their surrounding environment? How do we ensure that when a climate action plan or some energy transition plan is being developed, we take insights from these community members? The critical mineral dependency, I have already talked about it, that while extraction of critical mineral is important and critical mineral will play a key role in the energy transition, how do we ensure that this does not disturb the biodiversity and the vulnerable communities? Again, financing gaps and debt risk. So we do not want any finance that comes to the global south to create more debt. How do we ensure that we use innovative financing mechanisms? How do we bring together global south to support each other and act as guarantees when they are taking funds and grants from the global north? The inequality in transition, I have already talked about that, and the weak climate governance. So again, there is capacity, there's lack of capacity, and also the institutional structure when it comes to climate and energy transition that needs to be taken care of. So far, we only have non-binding commitments, and the implementation has been extremely poor. A lot has been promised in the climate international negotiations, but very little actually translates into action. So these are the challenges. I will now call Dr. Janet, request Dr. Janet to take us forward to discuss our asks. Thank you, Mikla.
Thank you very much, thank you kindly, Arini, for such a prolific introduction. I think you have partly touched on some of the issues, and I just pray that as I continue, some of the issues won't be like repetition. As the lead facilitator has highlighted, our working group is actually straddling in between two work streams, that is the just energy transition and the environment and climate sustainability, which are two broad themes. And I'm sure definitely you can actually appreciate the amount of work. It was very difficult coming up with very broad papers, technical papers, and having to select among the papers as to which one comes have priority. So please, for us, please kindly be kind to us if we did come up with some, omitted some of those particular issues that are really critical. I understand we have climate activists in the room, environmental activists, just energy transition activists, and definitely would really appreciate if you strongly feel that there might be some omissions that are critical to you, particularly in light of the policy propositions. So definitely the asks are also centered around the problems, the issue analysis that Rini has actually well articulated. I'm so sorry, I have a watch party here. I have my team from the African Diaspora Workers Network, who are also part of the following this particular presentation. I'm so sorry about the background noise, but I've just tried to minimize it. So yeah, so basically the first ask for us, it has to do with energy security and sovereignty. The issue of energy poverty is actually at the core of the African context, and not only Africa, but also, the global South in particular. I won't really get into the dynamics, but definitely just to highlight that our prayer to the G20 will definitely have to address the issue of energy poverty, because as Rini has shared the statistical data, billions of people, households, not only in the global South, even in the global North, are actually trapped in what we call energy poverty. There are families or households or individual communities that have never experienced the luxury of energy access, let alone even if we talk about clean energy, they would actually question as to clean for who, because definitely you can talk about clean as an extra, bonus, but clean when you do not even have anywhere to start. So those are the critical issues that we really need to put to the fore. We also looking forward to have the G20 establish a critical minerals commission to ensure that the critical minerals that Rini has also alluded to, that actually drive the EVE's revolution are actually extracted in a responsible manner. We had the privilege of visiting some vulnerable communities, mining affected communities here in South Africa, with our team. And we had some engagements with the communities from Marikana. What we witnessed there is actually, I don't know how to explain it. It's a shame, in the sense that the very same communities that host big mines that produce platinum, that produce chrome, actually deprived of energy itself. Not only that, when it comes to environmental health and safety impacts, they actually bear the brunt. For those who are in South Africa or anywhere in Africa, perhaps you should get some chance to go visit one day. You are actually greeted by heaps and heaps of tailing dams, of which the tailing dams, at the end of the day, they are there to stay. For those who are into this chemical science, would actually inform you that all the false promises that perhaps there are some ways to mitigate the effects on the health of communities won't really work. So the issues of critical minerals, we can't talk about it without talking about human rights violations. So we wouldn't want also history to repeat itself. We have witnessed what has happened with other precious minerals like platinum, in which communities today are actually bearing the effects through breathing dirty air, drinking. Community members who participated in those focus group discussions at Marikana actually complained about dirty, polluted water, which is actually not just dirty, but chrome polluted water. And we all understand that as the situation, the marathon, the race towards extracting of this particular critical minerals, gets to that tipping point, obviously there's going to be more and more human rights violations, particularly when it comes to health. So those are some of the issues that we really need to pin down. We're also calling for, obviously, the inclusive and rights-based transition that ensure the respect, inclusivity, and most importantly, that uphold free, prior, and informed consent, that also respects and take into account the issues of technology, knowledge sharing, and capacity building for climate and energy planning. And of course, that integrate indigenous knowledge systems. This, I remember very well, many of those that we spoke to lamented how, as some of us, I'm a culprit because I'm a researcher as well in my other life as an academic researcher, where we do have people going to speak to communities, but at the end of the day, whatever knowledge they gain from those particular space, it now goes elsewhere. Those global north-south, divide, of which that particular knowledge is no longer acknowledged as coming from the grassroots. The next thing we hear, there is IPs, intellectual property rights, and whenever communities come up perhaps with their own ways in which they survive without even the scientific knowledge from elsewhere, it's always questioned. For example, imagine, like, for example, a community member today discovers a clean model, in terms of energy transmission. obviously it will be questioned up to zero until when it goes somewhere else where it has to be panel beaten, and at the end of the day, the intellectual property rights belongs to them. So communities are actually calling for the integration of the indigenous knowledge system. Also, we looking at gender responsive frameworks to support workers, value chains, informal economies, women, youth, and vulnerable groups. Vulnerable groups here being, I think we still need to revisit, given the input we got from the working groups on for persons living with disabilities, and of course the LGBTI communities. So those all have to be taken into account in whatever policies that we're gonna come out with. And then we also looked at sustainable financing. As emphasized by Renee earlier on, we are very clear. We are calling for non-debt creating, equitable and reparative funding, joint development of low carbon economies and frameworks to enable MSE diversification and carbonization, embed accountability, obviously transparency and community participation. In summary, a recent report by Oxfam Africa raised some very fundamental points. In fact, it came out with very interesting findings that there is 1% of those who are classified as the wealth, the rich within Africa. So wealth is actually concentrated in those, the hands of those 5 wealthiest men on the continent. And recently, without getting into the detail, there have been issues around one of the wealthiest billionaires on the continent who actually makes his livelihood or whatever business activities accumulating through extractivism in Nigeria, who has been trying to muzzle the voices of workers. And what we are only calling for is that while we are also looking beyond the continent or the global south, looking at the largest polluters, obviously, we all understand the largest polluters in this world, China, US. In fact, let me say, most of the G20 countries, from our policy brief, it's very clear for those who have managed to engage with it. They're all coming from the G20, but most importantly to note is that even in Africa, we have those wealthiest who would actually find a scapegoat if we always look externally for solutions or the reparations. So we are calling also for reparations that have to do with taxing the rich, the super rich. And then on environmental and biodiversity conservation, we also calling for adoption of international treaties like the Minamata Convention on Mercury Use. Also, we calling for community-led conservation and ecosystem restoration, eradication of toxic substances, that is plastic. Plastic actually we're talking about a circular economy in this particular case. Instead of taking plastic and just disposing of it, of which we understand that it's non-biodegradable, and also another largest polluter. So we're also building on the calls that were made in Rio, Brazil last year. Also, we're looking at a global moratorium on ocean mining, including sustainable waste management, and of course, enforcement of policies against capitalist extractivism to safeguard biodiversity, ocean, water, and air quality. It's very difficult to, it's a mouthful to chew, but yeah, these are our main asks for now. Michaela, if you could move to the next slide. Thank you kindly, sir. So I won't really delve much into this particular slide, but all to bring to your attention that there are very critical policy asks that we have made, but without really targeting particular role players, this will just remain like nothing has been done. You know, we haven't done anything, because obviously the next person or the next role player will just look at the next one to say, oh, perhaps this is your responsibility. So in that particular instance, I think we have really very strategic action proposals, of which the main among them, but not in any particular order, we called for the domestication of the climate commitments into law. That's in terms of governance. We have noted that for many years, the G20 has been meeting. It's not the first time that they're meeting, but obviously making all these particular strategic commitments. At the end of the day, the cycle continues. They meet each and every year, but nobody really takes a stock of what has been done over that particular year, particularly in terms of the governance part of it. So we are actually calling for binding accountability and peer review of the nationally determined NDCs. And then we also calling for the development of fair and transparent critical minerals framework, which I have actually touched more, I think, in the previous slide. We also calling for acceleration of renewable energy tripling and efficiency doubling by 2030, but taking note of what we highlighted and emphasized earlier around the issue of energy poverty, to ensure that we subscribe to the principle of leave no one behind. How about those who haven't even tested what energy provision is all about at the end of the day? And then creation of a transition funds for workers and MSC SMEs, those who would actually lose their forms of employment, because now the critical minerals and the EVs come along with their own skills demand. So the call is to ensure that when we are talking about green jobs, let them really be green, but fair at the same time. What do we do with the current workforce? What do we do with our young ones now who have actually studied some other degrees, or not only degrees, other courses, whether at and colleges or wherever. And then now we're talking of advanced skills that have to do with digital innovation and technological advancement. So all those, they have to be taken into account. Improve urban and rural planning to safeguard forest, food security, biodiversity, and ecosystems amidst escalating climate disasters and risks. This ask and action has always been reiterated, I think, over the years as we were reviewing the other previous policy packs. We noted that the issue of food security, biodiversity, and ecosystems has been raised several times, but because they zip that binding laws and policies deficit, such that at the end of the day, people, as we have noted, capitalism actually evolves and has to fit the current status quo. So what it does is that the issues related, the old debates around the environment have just been relegated to the drains, and now the focus is more on the solution, which is the just energy transition. So we really need to continue agitating and advancing and calling for issues and action when it regards to biodiversity and ecosystems. So we really need to have some strong commitment and action on conservation of forests, ecosystems, and biodiversity, oceans, enhance food security, climate resilient, and urban and rural areas. So our oceans are largely infested with plastic. I think we have shared some of the articles around this. So what do we do? So we really need some serious and concrete commitments this time around. So the last but not least, obviously, we need to address the chemical waste and pollution, ban pesticides, and obviously the use of mercury and adopt Minamata Convention. Pesticides, I think my fellow comrade Vainola, who is going to present after, she's an expert on that particular area because she has been working on that aspect for many years. The issue of pesticides, I think we have heard about organophosphates, what has happened recently, you know, not only in South Africa, but everywhere else. So those are some of the issues that we really are calling also for research on alternatives, including organic pesticides, improved health and environment, so as to ensure that our environment, not only our environment, but people's lives are safe. Thank you so much, Michaela. And Madam Chair, I hand over to you. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. We proceed to the next person. Over to you.
I think Comrade Vainola, I can't see her.
She was on the call earlier.
Whilst we are waiting for Comrade Vainola.
But you can proceed, Dr. Janet, if she's not available.
Okay. Please unmute me. Oh, sorry, she's muted. Please kindly, admin, kindly unmute her. Thank you. I would really want to hear it from, from her. Thank you. So most importantly, as we are waiting for her, the women leadership is also very fundamental. Thank you. Thank you, leadership.
Kindly go ahead, Vainola. Vainola, can you hear us? You're unmuted.
Oh, she requested to be unmuted. Let me
check. Which I have done.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes. Yes. Please just highlight to me which of the sections I must concentrate on.
Vainola, I think we had aligned on the slides you were to walk through.
Yes.
Yes, please walk through those slides.
We are recommendation 2 now. Okay. The important thing there on adopt the gender responsive just energy transition frameworks. It is important that we center women in this process. We say that we want to move away from coal to renewable energy, but there are people who have been working on the coal mines that need support for this transition, and the women who have been responsible for fetching wood to cook, and also who make sure that there are cash available in the family to buy electricity. We need to center them now also in this debate on the just energy transition, and it's important that women who are at the center in families in cooking still. There need to be a focus on clean cooking, but not in a patriarchal way where we see women as the only people that are responsible for cooking. And so when we talk about the funding for just energy transition, the women need to be considered here, and rural women in particular must get access to funding. We also need to on the issue of the standalone policy on gender sensitive and inclusive disaster management. It is the women who are bearing the brunt of the droughts and the floods. Some of the women have to leave their families, or they are separated from their children, and they have to spend a lot of money, sometimes their social protection money, to get to safety. There are times when the government's protection support is kicking in too late, and there are immediate survival processes that need to happen in order to safeguard people. There need to be a plan to deal with this crisis, and the women need to be centered in doing that planning, because they are the ones that has to keep the family safe and has to make sure that they need to travel to a safe place. And so money for road infrastructure, for data, for communications. If they are not able to communicate, they might be trapped there and die if there isn't immediate relief. And so planning, when we all need to get interested in planning and not just only stop at policy, but at the policy level, the mechanisms must be put in place in order to make sure that less people are getting trapped and that no people are dying. And therefore the women are key to the planning and the costing of the just energy transition, the costing of climate reparations. And so we don't want to see the women as strong and they can be resilient. There need to be a strong mitigation processes, which they need to be part of the planning. And then we also need to make sure, I'm talking about all the gender issue now. We talk about the government's educational and the research institution, the private sector in co-creation with communities and CSOs. We are saying that when we do research, it's normally the academic institutions that set the agenda. Before we even get to the topic of research, we need to have a process of consultation where communities are participating in setting the priorities for research, because we spend sometimes a lot of money, millions of money, doing very good research, but the research might not be relevant. It might not be the priorities for the community. And so if we do not want to waste money at this time when everybody's money is cut, it is important to do co-creation and agenda setting. And we have done research in the West Coast and in the Northern Cape on the impact of mining of women. We included them in the selecting participant for focus group, in the data analysis, in the reporting phase, and we took the report back to them, and they are also included as authors in that report. And so it is possible to have a powerful integration of communities in research, where we see them as knowledge producers, even if they do not have a master's or a PhD. They are sitting with the indigenous knowledge, and it is time that we acknowledge that knowledge as also equal. In terms of biodiversity protection, regeneration of degraded lands and resilient livelihoods, here again, we need to make sure that we restore the land. We make sure that women are also at the center here, and that communities are not left on their own. Because in the Northern Cape, we just came from there with our G20 roadshow, and they say that our livestock are falling dead because of the excessive heat, and also because of the excessive rain. And so we need protection for livestock. if we want to move away from livestock, we need, if we want to center green agriculture and crops as a more central way of eating, we need to make sure that we also give them support of the coverage of the livestock, because they said within 3 weeks' time, the beautiful plants and the seedlings that they are working with are also destroyed because of the excessive heat. Yes, and so the resilience mustn't be taken for granted. We shouldn't see the resilience that must only come, or communities must be aided in order to become resilient. And I like to use the word to adapt and to adjust rather. So I think that is important. When enhancing food security and to reduce water stress, improved air and water quality. There was a wonderful seminar and webinar a couple of days ago, also by the Department of Forestry. We need to make sure that the air quality is, our air is cleaned up, because there are people who are dying. There are people who are dying from polluted air. There are people who are dying from polluted land, and there are people who are dying from the pollution that is as a result of the coal mines, and also the acid that is seeping into the community water. And it's when we spoke to the people in Marikana and in the Northwest, they told us how unsafe they feel and how they can see that the water has been polluted and the water is treated, and they do not feel human beings, because they are expected to live in this way. The protection of indigenous peoples and the equitable transitions. I think Comrade Janice has been speaking about that. The disaster preparedness and management must be inclusive. I think I've already spoke about this, that in our planning and in our management and in our consultation, women's voices must be key. And so we cannot leave them as an afterthought. We need to have a well-informed public to strengthen the collaboration. We have started with this process where we say, this is an Africa G20. We cannot leave G20 here up to 20 ministerial leaders only. We need to inform, this G20 must be informed by all key stakeholders. And so we have been asking communities. Unfortunately, we couldn't reach every community in these areas, in the Northwest, in Kuruman, and in the other Northern Cape, and in the Western Cape, and in the Eastern Cape. There has been, in partnership with organizations like Oxfam, we have been talking to the people. What is it that you feel must be central? And so issues of intersectionality of land, water, food security, air quality, environment, disaster management, those things are not happening in isolation in people's lives. And so we cannot deal with them. We cannot deal with food security, sovereignty outside of the energy debate. And so it is time now that women and communities are centered in this debate. And so information is going to be key. And we need to trust that our communities have the solutions. We cannot see them as people who do not have the solutions, because they are sitting in the situation, and according to their own lived experience, they are the experts. And it is time that we make that mind shifts. I think that that is the last one. I think also in terms of women leadership, we are talking about the alternative economy. If we want to move away from plastics, which is harmful to the ocean, we need to make sure that we have a more circular economy. And there again, we need to have all our so-called vulnerable communities at the center of planning. And so we need to give them access to new businesses. We need to plan with them. We need to make sure that there are markets for their products. And so that alternative economy, if we begin to also talk to B20, who said they promise that they will give the majority of their money, they will give to women and marginalized groups. And so I think that is now, let's not go in the old way. Let's now start in the new circular economy and look at those businesses and prioritize those businesses that also look at the more circular economy, where there's no pollution, no plastic, and a just energy and a just agricultural transition. Thank you. I think I will end there.
Thank you very much, Vainola. Much appreciated. Mihala, let's quickly go through the last slides and then we'll open the floor for questions. Over to you, Mihala.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. So the last slide talks about the policy instruments that have been used to which form the foundation of this policy brief and this presentation as well. The frameworks that have been listed here, from the Paris Agreement of the UNFCCC to ILO's Just Transition Guidelines and the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Sendai Framework, collectively establish the global and regional architecture for advancing just and sustainable energy transition across the globe. This policy brief draws on these frameworks to demonstrate how these existing commitments that countries have made can be translated into action through the cooperation among countries within the G20 group. The Paris Agreement, for instance, commits to limiting temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius with an emphasis on equity and common but differentiated responsibilities. And these principles are central to how we understand just transition. And the ILO's guidelines, for example, on just transition, provide the social dimensions of this transformation, which will ensure that climate and energy policies not only protect livelihoods, but they also uphold rights of workers and also promote social dialogue and social inclusion of all marginalized and vulnerable groups. Likewise, the SDG, various SDG goals that have been mentioned here anchor the energy transition within a development framework, which seeks universal energy access, decent work, and urgent climate action. So by linking these principles to national and regional realities, this policy brief that has been developed gives a few recommendations to the G20 for their consideration. And these recommendations have been developed in a manner that bridge environmental ambition, climate action, with the inclusion of social and economic imperatives. For the G20, which represents the world's largest economies and a significant share of global emissions, these recommendations emphasize the need for a people-centered energy transition that must not only integrate equality, decent work, and community consent, but also environmental aspects of biodiversity protection into every policy or plan or practice that needs to be implemented to be able to achieve our collective global goals. In essence, these policy instruments that have been mentioned here on this slide underscore the normative basis of the work that was carried out for this policy brief, and they connect global commitments to practical pathways that can drive a truly inclusive, equitable transition for all G20 countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, those are the policy instruments that have supported and informed all the great work that we have done. Without your help, this would not have been possible. Mihala, let me introduce the team members who are not here so we can go to questions. We can go to the next slide. Mihala, can you hear me?
I have moved to the next slide. I hope you can see it.
Oh,
Maybe there's a slight lag.
No, that's okay. Thank you very much. I think we have heard from Vionola and Rini. So Hannah Wangombe of Oxfam Kenya is also part of our technical advisory team who could not make it today, as well as Mumbi Mahinda, who also is supporting as a technical coordinator. Thank you. You can go to the next slide. All right, we seem to be having, thank you very much. And this is our motto: the land remembers and the air testifies. And when this happens, the people rise, not from broken legacies, but through forged, resilient futures. Thank you very much, Mihala. Now, we have had a few questions which had been posted in the chat, and I will read them out, and I will ask our colleagues, Dr. Janet, Rini, Mihala, and Vanola to help us unpack this. So I'll go straight to the first question, which was, have there been any means so far to ensure that the Minamata Convention can be effectively implemented in rural and artisanal mining, gold mining, that means communities, to protect the human health and environment without compromising the livelihoods? I will ask Dr. Janet to respond to this. She's quite passionate about the Minamata Convention. Dr. Janet, over to you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Lead Facilitator. And thank you for the question. This is a good, very good question. And that takes us to our key policy ask for the need to domesticate, the adopted, international conventions by member states, in this particular case, G20. But coming back to South Africa, there has been recently some programs and interventions in as far as trying to implement the Minamata Protocol. I think some members, community members in this particular gathering have been actually involved in those processes. It actually began recently, but last year we had an international convening in Cape Town, of which the issue of the need for member states to adopt the Minamata Protocol was actually discussed in depth at that particular international conference, particularly in the context of Africa in general, and I guess Latin America as well, where ASGM, that is artisanal small gold mining, occurs. Mercury is central, particularly to the processing of the precious mineral. So this is a call for member states to, of course, acknowledge that artisanal small-scale mining is critical, much as industrial mining is critical, but definitely there is need to observe health and safety protocols, as mercury is harmful not only to the humans who are directly involved in the processing of the gold, but also to the communities that surround them, to the biodiversity as well, because there is actually research has shown that at times this mercury is actually disposed of irresponsibly. And what the United Nations Environmental Program, that's the UNEP, has been trying to do in the context of South Africa, I'm sure that's their flagship program, is to work with strategic partners from government to research centers to strategic government agencies, MinTech, and also associations of artisanal small-scale miners. That is the National Association of Artisanal Miners, that is NAM, including community leaders in educating particularly the artisanal small-scale miners on the safe use of and handling mercury and also disposing of it. So I guess we actually have to applaud that initiative in the context of South Africa, and hopefully the program won't just end here, but could be cascaded to other countries on the continent that are also heavily involved actually survive on artisanal and small scale gold mining. And of course, Latin America. I understand Brazil has begun some research around some alternative use of alternative substances to purify mercury, and perhaps we could draw some lessons in that particular respect. But yeah, it's just like we are at the beginning of it. And I also noted that question also relates to NEMA. NEMA is the National Environmental agents, act here in South Africa, but obviously many of the African countries do have their own environmental laws. The point is we do really have a myriad of policies and progressive legislation, but implementation is a major challenge or hurdle to ensure that we have justice and environmental justice for affected communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Janet. I think we are still in your corner. What is the meaning of ocean mining, and is it just? Before you log off, kindly respond to that as well.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I think I'll partly quickly touch on this, but also perhaps my colleague who also assisted in co-authoring this workstream policy brief, Comrade Vainola, would chip in at some point. But quickly, ocean mining, thanks to, I've noted already, somebody has responded in this regards in the chat. Ocean mining apparently has to do with those activities, mining activities like drilling, fracking, in which obviously it's all in search of oil. We understand that oil actually is also located in the oceans. We do also have incidences in which remnants from the industrial mining actually flow into our oceans, and then obviously artisanal mining or miners or other particular players would also be scanning through whatever the remnants that have actually overflow into the oceans. So it's actually a very broad concept, but it has to do with basically simply speaking fracking and oil drilling, and this is a phenomenon that is not only specific to the global south, even in the global north. I remember part of the course that I actually teach there at Wits University, Wits Mining Institute. We did have a component in which we had some case studies, very interesting case studies coming from the UK, in which communities were opposing fracking. So it's not just something that is specific only to the African context. Thank you so much. Sorry, Chair, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Dr. Janet. Vainola, would you like to add to this before we go to the next question? And we open up the floor for anybody who wants to ask them directly.
Yes, yeah, I think it's important to that we take note of this ocean mining. It's a new form of colonialism and ocean grabbing. They are coming, they have taken our lands, and they are coming now for the oceans and for our natural resources. And the women that we spoke about too in these communities where there's where they want to do ocean mining, they said that the impact, and also the fishermen we spoke to, impact will be very severe because their very livelihood will be at stake. They have been they have been looking at the cultural, social, and psychological, spiritual relationship with the ocean, and they said that we will never have that back if we allow them to mine. Also, the fish that will swim away because they will go to spaces where there's less intervention. There's been some research on when you drill in the ocean, it impacts the sea species and the seaweed and so on. And so environmentally, economically, and socially, it is not a good idea to develop the mining. And so again, pre-planning of any economic intervention on the ocean must be done with communities. And if communities are saying no, we need to respect them. We've seen with our government and with private companies that they're going ahead, and then we have to speak to our government through the courts. And it is not healthy for any society to speak only through our government with courts, because there's a lot of money involved. And that money is, again, money that could have been spent on food, on health, and on education. And so at this G20, we want a new social order, a new economic order, a new environmental order. And that is going to be the future, where we can have some beautiful ocean for our children left, and we can have some of the beautiful environmental aspects of our ocean left for ourselves and for the new generation. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Vanola. I now want to cross the seas to India. I would like to request Rini, and they can pair up with Mehala to answer the following set of questions. Thank you for the feedback on great insights. The question is, how about children are beginning, the question is about how children are being included in the just energy process for students who are already studying towards degrees, etc., that will be relevant due to the just energy transition. How are they included in safeguarding them in the future in unemployment? I know you are an expert in this space, so allow me to throw you under the bus. Over to you, Rini.
Thank you, Chair. And very interesting question. I think children are the future. So it is important that we get them involved. And I think what I remember from some conference somewhere, which said that the mind of children and kids and students is like a wet cement. So whatever impression you leave or whatever they kind of, gain when they're studying, and the kind of, internships that they do, it will remain intact throughout. So their mind is hungry for new things to learn. And what we are doing, I will be able to quote only for India at this point. And I would also like to say what we have mentioned in our policy brief. But just speaking from India's experience, both Mekhla and I are perfect example of, India decided to introduce these different courses on climate change, sustainable development, climate finance, on different climate governance. I don't exactly remember Mekhla's degree, and Mekhla can chip in here, but my degree was a master's in climate change impacts management back in 2010-11, where I would like to say a university in my state collaborated with a CSO. So CSO, all of us are CSOs here, to develop this curriculum for this course. I was one of the initial pass outs of those batches. And very recently, I met those people in the last COP, and then we had some workshop together. And I was like, okay, I would like to take a moment and say that because this was envisioned back in 2009 and 10, a lot of students have taken up that course. The same CSO is also now working to get this as a formal education in school. So far the focus in India was on the college degrees and postgraduate degrees, but now climate and climate action energy transition, sustainable development is getting formalized at school level, and what is known as NCERT, National Council on Education, I'll just pull up the this thing, which is basically responsible of formulating the syllabus, has accepted their what do you say, the proposal to get this incorporated at school level, and they are working together to develop the curriculum. I think they've done a lot of workshops. So that's one part. Other than this, there are several other initiatives that are being done in India with school children. There are these, environment camps and climate corps and this and, so many things where children are getting the opportunity to learn about it, to speak about it in the model UN conferences. Also, I think climate negotiations and all are becoming a very important topic. And um, I mean, if I'm allowed to use the words, kids these days are really keen to learn about it. That's my takes on what is happening in India. The second is what we have told in the policy brief. I think we have emphasized in every section, and that's why you would have felt when the presentation was going on that we have talked about inclusivity, we have talked about tapping the youth, we have talked about including the women and children and youth across the paper. So I think that's something that we as a group of working group 14 has also we have also not missed out. We have ensured that we, and our, if you read the recommendations of that pillar, you'll see that we have talked about all of this. I will just stop there. I hope I was able to answer that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm also learning a lot this today. Mihala, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rini. Just completely agree with what Rini just mentioned about a lot of these specialized courses that are being introduced at the university level for us to explore, which was something that I also did, and I studied climate science and policy as a specialization. And just to add to what Rini is saying, yes, CSOs play an important role working with universities to shape environment and climate education, but also there is also push at the sub-state or sub-national level where governments are taking interest in introducing these subjects very early on in schools. Like, for example, in the state of Tamil Nadu, the environment department over there is running programs that introduces eco clubs and eco awareness education curricula at the school level to inform children about the general problem of climate change, but also I think when you do it at that level, it sort of builds up and builds interest within young people to be able to move to larger issues of energy transition.
Oh, thank you very much. Before we leave your shores up in India, I'd like both of you, led by Rini, to take on this next question. Thank you for the presentation, the important policy brief, much appreciated. As we consider the proposed G20 framework, how do you see the role of civil society in ensuring that its principles remain inclusive, transparent, and grounded in the needs of the people and the planet? What mechanisms and or spaces do you believe are essential for the civil society to meaningfully influence G20 outcomes? Over to you, Rini.
Yeah, thank you. Again, interesting question, but I think what we are doing right now, I would like to say, is a most befitting example for that. This C20. I'm not sure who has asked this, but I believe that all the audiences here to understand that within the G20 you have these different groups, and C20 being the civil society 20 group, where the civil society comes together from the bigger group and talk about various focus areas. So within the civil 20 group, and Madam Chair, you can correct me here, I think we have 17 groups within the C20. Yeah. So you can imagine that the C20 has 17 groups. suppose for example, our group, the C14 group led by Madam Chair Vanjiku and co-facilitator Dr. Janet and Mr. Srinivas Krishnan Swami, we are dealing and trying to develop the recommendations for G20 on just energy transition, environment and climate sustainability. There's one on gender, there's one on I think biodiversity, there's one on economy and industry. I might be not very clued onto that, and madam can answer that question better. But this is one step, of course, and each of these groups are holding so many interactions. So we have this one interaction which is very close to our main event. But before this, you should have seen the hard work that has come from all the streams. And we try to bring in voices from global south. So when we say global south, we brought in Latin America, we brought in people from Asia, and we held consultations, online consultations. They did in-person consultations also. Of course, we are based out of India, so we could not do it. But if I can recall our experience when India held G20 in 2023, for the entire 1 year, we had so many interactions and so many brainstorm sessions within the C20 group for various working groups. At that time, we were in the net zero, we were the lead for the net zero emissions group. And we went across India so that we could see participation from all subnational entities also. So that's one thing. The second is, yes, we should always keep our voices, we should ensure that we are heard. So for us to be heard, we need to come as a group, and we need to resonate with each other. We need to, second each other's thoughts and voices, and we should take this forward. We should speak to the power. I think I have been learning this while I've been working with Dr. Vanjiku and Dr. Janet under the leadership of also our CEO, Mr. Srinivas Krishnaswamy. Civil society is critical, and it is our duty as as members of civil society to keep our voices loud and clear. I'll stop there, madam.
Thank you very much. We are 7 minutes past the time we had proposed to finish, but we do have a few questions pending. I will ask our indulgence, and I will give us a hard stop at 2:45. But we will understand if anybody needs to drop off. Our sincere apologies for the overrun. So on these questions, I'd like both Rini and maybe Dr. Janet to respond to this. Locations which are near mining, like the Val River, deposited uranium, we need to also look into that, destroy and the health, the issue, and most importantly, how this is impacting plants, animals, and human beings for health and food. The principle from below, from the concern, is below up. Is it important? This is a general concern from all of us. I don't know who wants to start. Do you want to start, and then we go back to we go to Dr. Janet before we take the other questions?
I would request Dr. Janet to come in here, because the the local context that you gave is maybe she can relate to it better.
All right, Dr. Janet, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rini, and thank you so much, Madam Lead Facilitator, and thanks for the question, Comrade Moshe. These are the lived experiences, everyday lived experiences of in communities which actually host mines, and it's unfortunate that nothing is being done. As I highlighted earlier, we do have very comprehensive, progressive laws and policies that that are actually consistent with the NEMA, the National Environmental Management Act. What is missing is the teeth to really act upon such kind of atrocious, activities in which, as we take refer back to the question or the case of Marikana, we had a situation in which communities had actually suffered from the effects of having drunk chrome-infested water, polluted water. And what happens? Obviously, when you go to the hospital, the first question is, what did you eat? What did you drink? And communities were very clear that I'm actually suffering from drinking chromium polluted waters. But now the burden of proof actually was laid back on them to show that no, this is as a result of chromium infested water. So these are some of the challenges that communities are facing every day. And part of our key policy recommendation from the expanded list was very clear that the issues around acknowledging indigenous knowledge is very critical, because one doesn't have to get a degree to show that, oh, I'm suffering because the water that I'm drinking every day is contaminated with mercury, because we can actually see it from our taps, running taps, or in the rural areas. You can actually tell that this water has been contaminated, and that's the same issue that I think Comrade Moshe is bringing to the to this particular platform as well. So for me, it's a matter of holding our governments accountable in terms of implementing and actioning on issues that are actually embedded within the national laws that are respective to any particular issue. Like in this case, what does NEMA say about, those polluters, whether they're big industrial miners or industrial manufacturers who are just, offloading their waste into the waters? What needs to be done? So it's a very difficult question, Comrade Moshe, but the reality is that communities are actually drinking and, contaminated waters, depending on the minerals that are mined in their particular areas, and uranium, which has, and communities have no control, and at the same time, they do not have other alternatives. You drink at your own risk, but at the end of the day, it's their health that's actually affected, and it's actually also cutting on the SDG aspirations, around the issues of long life health, SDG 3 that speaks to health and safety. So those are the critical issues and the emerging debates that we really need to talk about when it comes to water as well, and waste management. And obviously taking into account that South Africa itself it actually faces water crisis. It's a water scarce country, and there's this ongoing debate around whether is it because of climate change or it's poor governance. So we need to revisit those kind of debates and understand as to how best could we really address the issue of, we understand that mines are actually offloading their wastes in the waters, and there's nobody who cares about purifying that water. It's just recycled into our homes or our taps, just like that, as raw as it is. So it's a very difficult question, but thank you so much for that. It gives us some questions around the issue of peer review that we spoke about, I think, earlier, and perhaps having scorecards, capacity building of community members as monitors. How do we capacitate them such that when they make their case, when it comes perhaps to litigation, they actually are very clear, and the culprits won't be able to get away with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much, Dr. Janet. We are right on top of the hour, so allow me to take the last few questions and answer them quickly. Will the C20 be represented in the upcoming G20 happening in South Africa, Johannesburg, this week? I'm presuming you're talking about the meetings, and thank you very much for the great presentations. For clarity, the G20 working group meetings are invite only. We have definitely put in the information through the Sharper's office, and we are waiting for the confirmations. And once this is received, we will definitely be in South Africa to attend the two meetings, one which is the fourth working group meeting for the G20, for the energy just transition working group, and the environment and climate sustainability working group. So we are working very closely through the Sherpa's office. The last question is, which I decided I will take last, from my very good friend and, as they say in South Africa, very close comrade, Banekazi. I hope I pronounced your name right. I always miss it. She has definitely given a very powerful affirmation and names in terms of the key things that get sidelined. And she has asked, what is the key element? What will be our key takeout? Because for sure, integration is not assimilation. We cannot claim to pursue sustainability while relying on the very extractive logistics that have caused harm. This is very true, because true regenerations, as she says, requires stewardship, balance, and interconnectedness. Now to her question, what is the single most catalytic decisions G20 could take? This is my take. Please take this as a personal opinion, because I have not run it through my brilliant facilitating team who we have built this together. I would take this as commitment to ring fencing and financing an indigenous-led climate action and green jobs facility within the broader climate and development agenda. Why is this important in my perspective? This would ensure that climate finance directly reaches the indigenous and local communities, not just states and intermediaries. Professionalize and resource green jobs rooted in IKS, indigenous knowledge systems, which are, for example, sustainable farming, natural health, and stewardship of ecosystems, and most importantly, embed indigenous knowledge and governance structures so that decisions reflect lived knowledge, not just technical models. As such a facility would then thus be able to help us create a tangible, scalable win. Sometimes my English tech runs away from me. Delivering climate repatriations, dignified livelihood, which is what we're talking about here, and ensuring that we have a systemic mindset shift, because again, everything starts in the mind, towards livelihood and well-being of economies. It would also send a strong signal that the G20 of South Africa acknowledges IKS as a source of solutions, not just stories. So as you clearly put it, my dear friend, governments are great at declarations. However, as a civil society, it is our responsibility to safeguard and marshal the implementation. A reinforced financed mechanism for IKS-led climate action would definitely, in my opinion, bridge the gap and turn words into life-affirming impact. So those would be my thoughts. As we are wrapping up, I don't know whether any of my colleagues have a response to that question, or if there's anybody who we missed. I'd seen a hand up earlier on. We are already past the 2:45 in my time. Any other comments? Rebon, I see your camera is on. Do you want to say something?
No, ma'am. I'm just happy with the presentation. I've learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to more and meeting you guys in person. Thank you so much for your leadership, ma'am.
Thank you very much. It will be interesting to hear what Grace says. Rini, I see your hand is up. Over to you.
I'll just take 30 seconds. On that mining question, I thought I'll share this with the entire group here. Dr. Janet has covered everything, that accountability and transparency and, holding your government accountable. I just want to share one excellent example from India on how the mining, where the areas where mining is happening, when these areas are impacted, how these mining industries and the mining public sector undertakings of government are trying to help the community. So there's something called as District Mining Fund, DMF, which is set up in India as a compulsory thing. And all the, some percent as a CSR, some percent of the profit from mining companies goes to that. And those DMFs then help the affected villages with infrastructure. So if in this case where you asked about water pollution and all, so maybe some innovative mechanism like this can be set up where the profit, some percentage of the profit is given there, and that also helps to set up some infrastructure for filtration, for ensuring that there's not much exploitation, and whatever biodiversity or ecosystem services are going to the community, they are restored back. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very, very much. Wow, a lot for us to learn. David, I see your hand is up. Would you like to make a comment before we wrap up the session? I think we've taken over quite a bit of time from everybody's schedule today. David, if you're able to unmute. Let me see. Okay, sorry, maybe you're not able to unmute. Kindly unmute yourself. David, I have...
No, thank you so much, Program Director. I've got civil society leadership here. The question that I pose is that in all of these things that we are doing, did the presentations, what happened, all those kind of things, that civil society invited to this? Because of this one thing, we are talking about communities.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about communities, we are talking about people that civil society understand directly. Now, has then been that communication to civil society? That's the first question. The second question is, it's not a question. I don't know. Maybe it's a comment. We are talking about accountability. We've got 1.1 million that started, and civil society was left out. And then we come and say all these beautiful things that we are saying. It doesn't make sense. Because of civil society is a center of people. We are working with organizations. I will end there, Chair, and hear the comments of other people. Thank you so much, Chair.
Indeed, indeed. Very well, clearly put. I'll open this small window for the rest of us to chime into that before we share our last comment. Dr. Janet, your hand is up. Over to you. Thank you very much, David, for expressing everything very succinctly.
Yes, thank you so much, David. And these are the views that we really appreciate, because we are your servants, we are your messengers. This is why this collective is called civil society, right? I think I did touch on the issue of community consultations, and so as was Comrade Vainola in a presentation as well. Of course, not meaning to perhaps highlight all these consultations, engagements as having covered the entire spectrum in as far as communities and civil society. Civil society is a broad concept. Civil society includes quite a number of role players, from communities. Ourselves as researchers, as academics, we also fall under the civil society, banner or umbrella. Everyone that you find here today, whether they're researchers or they're community members or those who support the work, like earlier on, I did alluded to the fact that we are partners to Oxfam South Africa, being an organization that is supporting communities and civil society in their work. And I guess it's very helpful for us to kind of understand how civil society is structured. What we actually did, I think that your question also points to something very, very important that perhaps we omitted in our presentation, the process, the approach. How did we come up with these policy briefs? Because of limited resources that I think many of us here understand, this work is all voluntary work from many of those who have participated and who have been involved in the civil society work. And most challenging and the major hurdle to the work and our aspirations to really engage everyone who matters. It was going to be great for us to begin with South Africa as the host and move on to its neighbors, SEDC consultations. We move on to other RECs, regional economic blocks. We reach out to Africa. We go to global South Asia. We go to the Americas. We go to Europe. But unfortunately, we couldn't do that. And all that we could do was to convene various series of webinars, beginning with the inception webinar, where we actually presented our brainstormed ideas, and those who managed to join, and that was an open call to everyone, they managed to input into the process, and that's shaped our policy brief drafting process. We didn't just come up with policy briefs from Norway. We also had to engage existing literature, that's desktop review of policy documents. I think Michaela did a great job trying to take us through some of the major policy frameworks and documents that we have actually visited and also consulted. We also had to conduct some brief focus group discussions in Marikana at very constrained, under very constrained, resources and timing as well, because our process also began a bit late. So that said, this particular process that we hosted today, it's also still, it's not too late that we can embed and take into account what you have shared, David. We'll definitely take it into account. The issues around community consultations, but you also raised something fundamental around the 1.1 billion. I'm not so sure whether it's specific to South Africa or where, because our policy brief, it's a global policy brief that has to speak to everyone within the globe. So country-specific issues are very, very much important, because we'll factor them into our policy briefs as case studies. Because obviously our case studies that we have actually elected to go with have to do with South Africa, which is the current host, and of course spreading across the African context, the global South and global North. So yeah, thank you so much for highlighting that. The issue of 1.1 billion goes back to the governance and accountability part of it. We have to also, beyond these policy briefs, they are just there to lay the scientific, perhaps, evidence and data for us to take up with our other different role players, like litigating organizations that have or maybe Chapter 9 institutions in the context of South Africa. If you strongly feel that perhaps you have been disenfranchised, I think this is the platform in which we might just share relevant knowledge, but whatever different participants have to do with it, it's now beyond our control, but they are free to actually use that particular information because it's actually scientifically backed. Thank you so much. I just thought it was thought-provoking. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you very much, Dr. Janet. We still have a few more hands up. Please bear with us. Peter, over to you. Peter Whitty, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much to the presenters. I also thinking as we talk about the climate change and sustainability, we have made reference to the communities, but we are more outward looking than inward looking. So we are looking at the global north to support our climate change initiatives. In that case, I thought we would make reference to the Great Green Wall.
Mm-hmm. Kindly unpack the Great Green Wall.
Restore 100 million hectares of degraded. Yes, which was supposed
Peter,
to restore.
please unpack that for all of us.
Okay, the Great Green Wall was an African-led initiative in 2007. Mm-hmm. It was supposed to combat desertification and land degradation across the. And the target was 100 million hectares of degraded land restored by 2030, 10 million green jobs, promoting resilience and climate change, and sequestering 250 million tons of carbon. Mm. Now, it covered 11 countries, but many years later, it was also increased to another 20 countries to be involved. But there is very and we are heading towards 2030, and so and that looks like that we need and should embrace also the community involvement, which had already been alluded to. But when also we want to contribute a community, that's the community on climate change, because we are still cutting trees to make charcoal. We are still harvesting soil and leaving the nuded land with walls. We are still increasing. It's because the community does not relate their human activities to climate change. And that's where the problem is. We have strong policies internally to control land degradation or to influence the recovery. Some countries like Ethiopia has banned down, not Ethiopia, it's countries that have banned plastics, but we are still having a lot of plastics across Africa that are very difficult to manage, not even easy to recycle. So I think we need some policies, some strong policies, so that we just don't ask for money from the global now, but we also internally bring in systems that shows our efforts in responding to the climate change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. I have a personal opinion about going out to look for resources to find our initiatives, but I think they're best left for the finance working group. I see, thank you very much, and for also flagging the Green Wall initiative. We'll definitely look at that. I think Dr. Janet has also noted that. It's an important takeaway. David, your hand is still up. I can see you put it up again.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to come in. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I wanted to come in terms of how the doctor responded to me, because of the latter speaker spoke about something about environmental. But I just want to emphasize this issue of civil society organizations. Whatever we are going to do, whatever we are thinking to do, if we don't invite community-based organizations, we are not going to reach. We can have this webinar. We can have this webinar and talk, whatever we talk. But the moment we don't involve those CBOs, at the ground level that can give us the data. Whatever that we are planning is not going to work. I'm from South Africa. I've got my chairperson is here of the National TB Testing, Mr. Mabalan. Civil society plays a role, community. Let us do these things. I heard what doctor responded to me, but it is very important. When you go to Nigeria, you go to Kenya, you go to all these countries, the first door, talk to civil society. Thank you, Chair.
Indeed, indeed. And I think that also presents us an opportunity. This is not the last webinar we're going to do. This was the first official hosted by C20 as our governing body. But I know as a working group, we have been having plans to break down the two work streams. One is to focus on the energy just transition and the other on environment and climate sustainability. So we will take that away and definitely come back to all of us. If you did not receive an email from me today inviting you for this meeting, please put your email in the chat so that when we are sending out invites for the next webinar series, which is now broken down, I believe we can now be able to double down and, as what we say, double click and thumb through, especially what the CBOs would have the perspective. And our sincere apologies if you feel excluded. That is not our intention. Our intention is to be the vehicle and the voice of the people. So allow me to apologize regarding that. So if there is no other comment or question, I would like to draw this to a close. But before I do, I want to invite my co-facilitators just to give our last words, and I will close the meeting. Moshe, I see your hand is up before we close. Are you able to unmute? Let me see. There you go. I think you should be able to unmute now. Please go ahead, Moshe.
Comrade, I'm very grateful for this particular meeting. That was very important, of the highest standard. And you know, the movement that moved us, the inability to refuse for this. We are part of nature, the cosmos cities, the skies, the sea, the water, animals, and human beings. Not anybody is dominant to each other. That part of the connections is of paramount importance, is the message that I want to bring forth. And in that regard, solidarity in all spheres that God has created. That's my message. Aluta kumua amanda.
Oh, wow. Excellent. You have spoken right to my heart. The cosmic language, that is, I am a firm and strong believer that we are interconnected as above, so below. And thank you very much. Really, really highly appreciated.
Unmute, Chair.
Sorry? Dr. Janet, I think we will come to you to help us close. Before that, let us start with Mikhala, Vainola, just to give you last parting words, and then Rini, then to you, Dr. Janet. Mikhala, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. Just one point on CSO participation in the just energy transition planning process. I think CSOs, local NGO partners, are very important because they understand local realities much better than anyone else because they work on the ground. And so they will form a bridge between the community and the government and bodies responsible for just energy transition planning. And that's why I think this dialogue is very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vainola, if you're still on the call.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity and for everybody that participated. Yeah, I think that for this G20, we have started to collaborate across sectors and across areas, across countries in Africa, and the African voice is coming even stronger now. We should be going fast, and we should work with the willing and also then try and influence the unwilling that do not have the information, that are not sharing the same perspectives as us now, and to work hard to reach a maximum consensus, because the issues we are dealing with today is not for ourselves, but also for the next generation. So thank you, and let's continue talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vanola, and for leading with the road shows, especially. David, would you like to give your last comment before I move on to
my last point is that thank you so much, Chair, for giving me this opportunity to raise issues. And I want to agree with the latter speakers in terms of civil society being in the center of all these things that are happening, especially the latter speaker now. We need to involve civil society in all ways. I would know society doesn't have resources in all these countries. They struggle in terms of resources. But then I want this conversation to continue so that we can see a way to get to the people. It doesn't make sense for us to talk about all these things. I'm really happy. My leader is here, the other leader is here on this call. I'm really happy of what is happening in terms of this. And a chair, you've just alluded that we must continue with this call. Thank you so much. Over.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. Very heartwarming words, even as we soldier together in solidarity. I will move on to across the seas, over to Rini, your parting short, then to Dr. Janet. And I don't know that Gray is still on the call. It'll be good to hear from her. And then we will close. Rini, over to you. Rini, can you hear us? Okay, so.
Hello?
Sorry. Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
No, thank you so much. I had that input on the DMF, which I wanted to share, so I already did. Well, I don't think my hand was raised again, but thank you so much to everyone for your time, and to Madam for your leadership.
Thank you very much.
Any specific question?
No, we just wanted you to give you your parting shot.
And I will also just, Srini sir, just so as we finish this, he finished his expert panel. So he also says hi to everybody here, and thank you all the participants for staying back with us even after like almost 40 minutes, extension of the regular time.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. Rebon, who has kept us together, I see you're still on the call. Would you like to give a parting shot? Then I go to Dr. Janet. Rebon, are you still there? If not, you can go straight to Dr. Janet for your parting shot.
Oh, thank you so kindly, Madam Lead Facilitator Chair, the technical team that made it our day very easy today. My co-joint facilitator, Srin. I'm sure Srin is just laughing behind the scenes, knowing he knew very well, he anticipated that this session was going to take longer. And this is what we really mean by people-centric approaches. You know, whatever we do, we place people at the core. We are all community members, and we all have a role to play. Thank you so much, David, for your very profound input, for reminding us our ambition and aspirations were to make sure that we reach to all corners. But what have we done? We have grateful to the C20 leadership for providing this space for socializing. This is socializing the policy briefs. So we can't have socialization in the absence of people. So thank you so much. We hope that everyone who attended this particular very important gathering would find it within their space, you know, to be our ambassador, to carry over the message that we actually discussed here. And please feel free to still write back to us if you feel strongly that there are issues that were very were perhaps omitted that are specific to your own specific community. This is the chance. What we'll continue doing as civil society, we do not have resources, as we have all alluded to, but the resource that we have is that of social capital, that's you. The knowledge resource will continue beyond even this particular mega gatherings, developing, writing, you know, more and more policy briefs. Policy briefs apparently do have to lend themselves in the hands of those who make policies, whether they're going to read or not, but we will continue bombarding and nagging to ensure that our voices are heard. We'll continue writing in whatever spaces. We call upon yourselves to even write perhaps about your own lived experiences, you know, at the hands of all these impacts, adverse impacts of, you know, climate change, environmental injustices, land degradation. Please bring them on. We can actually go beyond even publishing some of the stories, perhaps as part of our Legacy project on this particular working group. I love writing, so you're more than welcome. And of course, guided by that overarching spirit that we can't talk about civil society without emphasizing the issue of inclusivity, without emphasizing issues of unity, and most importantly, solidarity as the main hosts, South Africa's presidents. Actually, I think on our overarching theme, the theme of solidarity takes also center stage. So I leave you with these very profound words, also from one of the leading, you know, leaders of Africa, that's Samora Machel. He was very clear around the issue of solidarity, that solidarity is not an act of charity, but it should be reciprocating. One, even if we are preaching solidarity, we also have to understand that whoever we are rendering the solidarity has the agents. Now that David has called out that we need CBOs on board, if we didn't have CB, we had not consulted CBOs, it simply means this is time to introspect. So we shouldn't go there and prescribe whatever medication, but they should invite us to say, oh, we need solidarity in terms of capacity building on these particular areas. We heard from Comrade Moshe, he's talking about the wastes that's being, you know, irresponsibly disposed in the rivers.
I think we lost you, Dr. Janet. Okay, looks like we lost.
We shouldn't undermine the agents of communities. Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Or
we lost you a bit. We lost you a bit, but thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh, can you hear me now? No, I'm actually. Thank you, Solidarity Forever. Amandla, Maibuya Africa, Maibuya G20. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Indeed. I think there's just one last comment which I want to flag before I give my comments. JET through Community Empower Community Beekeeping Projects, which is something I think we had not flagged, and tree planting campaigns. And it's something that we may want to maybe probably, even as we go into our deep dive in our other webinars, we shall look at how our work can contribute to what the communities around us that we are part of are doing. So thank you all for the richness of today's dialogue. Indeed, each intervention has strengthened our policy brief. We do commit, we shall relook at our brief and see where we have gaps. And from this richness of knowledge, this treasure trove, we shall definitely input the same. And it will also ensure that it's not only technically sound, as you have noted, we have very smart people on the facilitating team, but is also anchored in justice and the lived realities of our communities. I thus therefore extend my deep gratitude to my fellow co-facilitators, Dr. Janet and Dr. Srinivas, who we have deeply missed today. But I think he has missed more than we have missed him. And to a technical team, Rini, Hannah, Michala, Vernola, Mombi, everybody who's been part of this, and by extension, the team that has supported us, Rebon, Greer, the wider C20 ecosystem, to ensure that each of you have brought your best wisdom and your solidarity to this space. So really, this is what Ubuntu is like. We are because I am because you are. Thank you very much. So let's carry forward the spirit of this webinar into our advocacy, into our movements. And as Dr. Janet says, please be our flag bearers as we continue into the G20 arenas where these proposals must land. Your input has been invaluable. I come from the house of alchemy, and usually we say the land remembers, the air testifies, and the people rise. And together we continue to hold steady, to bridge voices, and be the spark and the energy that sustains the just transition for all. So really, thank you very much. Allow me to say it in my mother tongue. Thank you very much. And that is it until the next one. Bye for now.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. When the movement is low. Amanda!
Indeed. Thank you very much. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're dialing from. We value you, we see you, we hear you, we appreciate you. And without you, we wouldn't be. We commit to carry everything that you have shared with us. And in the usual civil society fashion, pull placards, knock on doors, bring bulldozers to ensure that your voice is heard. Thank you.
Sure, solidarity. Thank you, Comrade Moche. Thank Madam Lead Facilitator, the technical team, Comrade Dr. Srin there. You missed a lot. You missed out. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you.
Have a lovely one.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Patrick, I see your hand is still up. Oh, he's dialed off. So allow me to end the event and wish us all a good evening. The facilitating team, see you tomorrow at our usual time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.